In part 2 of our Live and Let Die 50th anniversary celebration, we look at the villains of the film. We'll move on to the villains, and we touched on Yaphet Kotto, but
there's so many.
There's so many villains. There's so many villains, and even the main villain is two different characters, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's quite I mean, if you look back at it, sometimes you might think, actually, he wasn't in it as much as I remembered. But he's got a presence throughout the film, and every scene he's in, he does get a lot of screen time and a lot of dialogue.
Yaphet Kotto is a really good actor. He's been in some absolutely cracking films. He's quite a big, imposing presence, which often gets a little bit forgotten because of the size of the henchmen around him. But he himself is, quite a physically imposing villain. He's quite sort of charming. He's not as outrageous in some ways as some of the people around him again. So I don't know whether some people whether he gets a little bit forgotten. But as you say, this whole thing of Mr. Big and him being the same person, I imagine was quite a big, it's really hard for me to think back on this film and assess it like objectively and to think, because it's just so, as long as I have had memory, as long as I can remember, I know this film inside out. So it's quite hard to analyse in that way.
I think James is sort of like, oh, you won't believe it's the same guy.
Yeah.
Remember that maybe?
It's so good, and the idea of it's a great plot device that he's this big, like sort of drug mob boss in America, whilst also having this presence in a completely different way in a Caribbean island. It's absolutely amazing.
There's one little question that he wants answers for.
In that case, you better ship me back to the island and let him ask in person. I'm not in the habit of giving answers to lackeys.
You damn lucky you got an air left to hear the question with. Which is, did you mess with that?
That's between Solitaire, myself, and Kananga. I'll tell him when I see him.
You ain't gonna see the sunlight unless you answer me!
I had no idea you were so frightened of him.
Did you touch her?
When I see Kananga.
Right.
Quite revealing.
Yeah, I think he's really good. I think he's quite scary at times. When he's revealed himself to be Kananga, and then the way he treats Solitaire and the scene with the cutting of the finger is pretty scary at that point. Then in the final confrontation, he's quite he's a bit more jovial and jokey almost. But I think he's really good. He gets perhaps forgotten about, but you've got your absolute top tier villains, and then underneath that, I think there's quite a lot of them who are sort of the next level down, who are absolutely brilliant. So I'd probably put Drax, Kananga. I'd probably say Silver. I don't, these sorts of villains that are on that next level down, who are really good, but just not quite Scaramanga or Sanchez or Zorin.
This film does do well. It's got lots of villains, as you said, but I absolutely love The Living Daylights, as you all know. But there's a lot of criticism about it having two villains at the end, and it feels a bit like, you have finished one part of the story, then you've got to go back and finish the other bit. Whereas you never get that feeling with this film. You never feel like, there's another bad guy they've got to finish off. It all hangs together perfectly in that sense. It builds to you never feel like there's too many villains. I never watch it think, why have we got so many villains? Do you know what I mean? They're all brilliant. It all fits together.
But there's still a nice twist at the end, of course, when he's there, and then even after that, Baron Samedi's on the train.
Into the train, he survived after all.
Brilliant ending.
Super.
I really like Kananga. I really, really like him. I think in some ways he potentially gets underlooked a bit. It's a bit like GoldenEye syndrome in terms of because of how many larger-than-life villains there are in this film. And he's probably the most understated of them. So if you think of... And that's deliberate, but you've got Teehee, you've got Whisper, you've got Baron Samedi, And then you've got like secondary villains such as Adam. You've got hey, Red Adam. I mean, I want that checker blazer.
Yeah.
You've got the taxi driver.
Yeah.
You've got Dan Barla, the guy who holds the snakes with the goat head on. You've got such an array of larger than life villains. The main villain kind of has to be a bit more And I think that because of that, he doesn't always get remembered as such, but the performance by Yaphet Kotto is outstanding. Reading Some Kind of Hero is quite fascinating about this because he deliberately didn't get on with Roger Moore and with the cast member. He made it his thing to be very standoffish, and actually he had to apologize years later because it was, and there was some other kind of, I don't want to say anything like get my facts wrong on this, but there was also some kind of racial allegiance, political allegiance stuff that was going on as well. I will send an audio of that. I want to fact check that before I say that. But it wasn't all, he deliberately didn't endear himself to people on the set. That shows in the film because I think there isn't a massive chemistry between Roger and Kananga, but there shouldn't be. It's not like that kind of villain. It's not a Franz Sanchez and James Bond. It's just not.
Yeah. What do we think about his death?
Well, that's why we looked at his children. That's
Love it.
Genius.
It's a good 70s death.
There's not a tier high enough, I don't think, to describe this death.
Must be, Rob, the most rewound scene that we ever.
Where's Kananga?
Well, he always did have an inflated opinion of himself.
Well, I think from a pure movie magic standpoint, this is one of the most rewound scenes I ever had on tape. Just how did they do this? I have no idea how they did this. I still don't know.
That model.
They really did it.
Yeah.
Look, Bob, I've got no evidence to the contrary. No one's told me it's not really Yaphet Kotto.
Again, growing up as children, not confusion, but you see that, and then there's also a Monty Python sketch, isn't it? Do you remember where the guy blowing up a huge balloon?
Yes.
Yeah. Do you remember?
Yeah.
Remember that one?
Yeah.
And he eventually sort of
similar.
So. Ever so slightly in my head links to that.
The clothes just rip off.
You said Mr. Creosote in the restaurant.
Yeah, in Meaning of Life.
Meaning of Life.
That's in,
Yeah.
The noise,
I watched it recently with my wife, who's not, like, it's quite weird to show that to somebody, an adult now. First time. I don't know, what did Rachel think about that, John?
Well, I mean, she had her head in her hands, but to be quite honest, I mean, she had her head in her hands from the minute Roger said, "Sheer magnetism, darling," and so from 10 minutes in, she was just like, "What am I watching?"
Yeah.
So,
played for laughs, though, isn't it? Of course, it is.
Yeah,
it is, isn't it?
Yeah.
It has to be, but again, it's deadly serious. A man gets blown to pieces.
Oh yeah, it's awful. Yeah,
after trying to kill the sharks and all this, cutting the hand. Like in the cinema, that was the one I was most worried about with the kids. Like looking across at them when they saw the. Oh, sheesh. But
didn't it bother them?
No.
And they weren't bothered about the voodoo aspect. Nothing frightened them.
They had some questions about it, like what was that all about, but they never asked anything further. To be honest, what this has shown me is that, because I was a little bit concerned, I was determined to see Live and Let Die in the theatres, and it was a family night, and it was like, right, we're all going. It's a PG, so we're all going, and there was a gamble element to this, certainly, but there was nothing there. Like they weren't bothered about anything, and then it turns out afterwards, like. My 4-year-old, one of his favourite films is Tremors, So, absolutely loves it. Yeah, I know, yeah. So but like they all watched Jaws, and I was like, you're never allowed to watch Jaws, and I showed them Jaws, and they were like, so boring. I was like, right, you're no children of mine. That's enough.
I thought you were going
Get
to.
out
I thought you were going to say your 4-year-old when he was watching Live and Let Die. And he goes, "Hey, that's him from Alien."
Got to draw a line somewhere, Bob.
Well, they weren't bothered about Rosie Carver's death.
Yes.
No, like honestly, I kept looking at them like, and the only thing that rose anything more than a scant reaction was Mrs. Bell. Like, oh shit!
Yeah, holy
Like-
shit!
So like, I looked across at my at the time, she was 7. She went,
Yeah.
that was it. The only reaction all the way through.
Bell.
Yeah, when you were reeling off all the villains a minute ago, I was desperate to shout, Mrs. Bell is surely one of those.
yeah.
Secondary villain status for
hospital.
Mrs. Bell.
Yeah. But it is, I mean, maybe it's that thing, Rob, of, watching stuff with your mum and dad, anything rude or swearing.
Oh, no.
Violence, absolutely fine. No,
it's fine. You can. Like everything, though, you can name as many people as you want in films and books, and that's not a problem. But there are certain trigger things that you can't go near.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What do you think of him, Rob, as a villain, Yaphet Kotto?
Outstanding. Just outstanding. Seriously, but totally quotable. And like again, I find using the quotes all the time just unacceptable. Did you touch her?
Yeah.
There's not many times you can wheel that out in the average day, but
so scary, that, isn't it? Yeah.
And the whole, when he removes the makeup, his whole performance throughout that really is brilliant. I think because you go in from one character to the other, and his like very visible metamorphosis is superbly done. I just think he's a great villain. I think they're all brilliant, to be honest. I think they all had such a brilliant flavour. I'm very grateful for Teehee for ruining me offering wine to anyone ever. No champagne. I can't, it's ruined forever now. No, sorry, not Teehee. Whisper.
Whisper, yeah.
Whisper.
Anybody home? Your champagne, sir.
What was that?
Your champagne.
Put it on the table, thanks.
Shall I open it?
What?
Shall I open it?
Oh, no, I can manage. Thank you. Yeah,
So sorry.
Shall I open it?
There's a clue in the name, Rob.
Yeah.
The clue's in the name, I know. I know. Do you know, I've always got those two mixed up. Just like because for ages someone told me, I think it might have been you, Tom, when we were growing up, like, Live and Let Die, amazing. Teehee's amazing. And I always loved Whisper so much that I assumed because you'd named the secondary henchman guy, that it must be his name. So it's just stuck forever that he's Teehee.
Real physical threat, Whisper,
Yeah.
Put in a little.
Physical threat.
I don't. What is that thing anyway? I don't know, but I love it.
Giant metal suppository. I have no idea.
It transports the drugs. I think.
Oh right.
Talks about
Quite Ken Adam, that final set.
Yeah, it is.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
The set's amazing.
Yeah, an underground, a cave with
layer.
a pool with sharks in it. It's pretty classic Bond villain set.
Sid Kane Monter.
Sid Kane, yeah.
He's a legend on this, isn't he?
Yeah.
What a guy. Yeah. What a guy.
Yeah.
And Roger Moore's given a great outfit for that end takedown.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's Harry. That's what we got in Spectre. Classic Bond.
Yeah, I just thought that the Spectre outfit, unlike he wears on the posters,
you'd never see him wearing it.
Never wears it.
No. It's the same, is it? Outfit, pretty much.
Yeah,
because it's brown, the holster, isn't it?
Yeah,
the black hole in it. Yeah. Well, we got a photo. We can that's good enough. So the other villains we mentioned, Whisper, Teehee we've briefly mentioned, but he's another one who he doesn't. I think because you have that top tier again, like Matt said, of Jaws, Odd Job, even Xenia now, maybe that people remember instantly. Teehee isn't mentioned, but then as soon as you talk about him, you're like, oh yeah, I really like him. Oh yeah. he makes a massive impression. I mean, that scene, the torture scene, but then also the crocodile scene. The stuff that he's saying, and I love how he just suddenly, he moves away, and he's, oh right, Roger's on his own, he's stranded, and he just starts laughing, doesn't he? That's how it ends, just laughing and laughing. But then that final fight, you see a new side to him where he's a bit nastier, isn't he? And pretty scary. That pretty scary fight, I think. That.
Yeah, it is.
Film math.
I don't know quite how it's come about, but I've really got it in my mind now that Guy Hamilton's films, there's not an awful lot of action in them, or you can't call them action films. Goldfinger, Diamonds Are Forever, Live and Let Die, and Mammy Glen. There are some great stunts in them, and there's some great sort of fights or scenes with action in, but you couldn't say they're action films. Caper. Yeah.
I don't think I'd call Bond films action films really until we got to Brosnan, to be honest, and they started to ramp up the pace.
Well, but I mean, I don't know. I feel like John Glenn's Bond films had like set pieces after set pieces, which were really.
I think they've got the best directed action in them, the John Glenn films. But I still feel like you've got more story, more character.
Yeah.
Than you would get in what I would just think of as a more generic action film. I don't know what's a generic action film. Something with Stallone, I guess, in the 90s.
Or absolutely.
Rock Now, whatever. I feel like you get a lot more character and story. And if you look at Octopussy, the amount of story going on in that.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
How's everything? As we keep saying, yeah. And Baron Samedi's one of those where he's sort of more famous than he has any right to be in terms of screen time,
the impact that he has when he's on.
Very good.
And I know a lot of people will be like, "That's because he was in the GoldenEye game." Why was he in the GoldenEye game? Because he was so iconic. So,
if you ever get the chance, watch the special features on the Blu-ray, because obviously Geoffrey Holder was. I'm trying to think the word now. He was a choreographer.
Yeah.
The special features, it shows him choreographing the things. He is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like genuinely unbelievable. And I think that, to me, yes, he's got his laugh and but it's his movement that like everything he does, even like the way that he picks up a card and he it's so over exaggerated and flamboyant how he does it. Everything about his movement that's what makes him stand out to me, because he was
sitting on the edge of a table.
Yeah, exactly.
Perching on a table.
He's like what is it, 6'7", 6'8"? He's absolutely humongous.
But how scary were he sort of introduced? Is it Felix? They say somebody, or who is it?
No, it's the guy on the
performer,
the man who cannot die. On stage. Yeah.
No, not that. Like, somebody came through customs 9 feet tall. Or something.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
So scary that. Isn't
it? No, you're right.
Kananga.
But yeah, those scenes with him again, they are amongst the most memorable. The graveyard at the end where he's shot in the head and in the snake. It's awful, isn't it? It's really really scary for kids, but we loved it.
Yeah, he never loses it as well, though. He's so calm and assured, isn't he? He's never growling or raging or anything like that.
That's one of the things about this Bond film, though, is that if you look back previously, none of the Bond villains, arguably barring Charles Gray's Blofeld, smile. And then every Bond villain here, from T-He with his smile to Samadhi's laugh, they're all larger than life. The taxi driver, they're a different kind of villain. They're just as sinister, but it probably arguably more sinister because they're smiling when they're doing it all the time.
Yeah. Right. Because how many villains have been likable as characters? A bit nowadays, the ones that people like more are the ones where you can, yes, they are
their story.
Quite, like Silver's one of those, obviously, and Max Zorin technically is evil guy, isn't he? But you can't help but you don't like him, but you like watching him be weird and different. And you're right. Live and Let Die.
Sanchez is actually quite likable because he said he's just playing James Bond's alter ego, isn't he?
Yeah. Sanchez is the absolute brilliant example of that, where you both, isn't it? But again, Baron Samedi, never anything like it, but you couldn't possibly do anything to copy it because there's no, it wouldn't work, would it? Just Baron Samedi, but absolutely fascinating and quite right that he doesn't die, in my opinion.
Yeah.
This is Dom here. I just wanted to quickly record my thoughts about Live and Let Die and the 50th anniversary. Now, first of all, I'm really excited about this because Live and Let Die for me is almost at the top of my James Bond film rankings, and I just love it, to be honest. I know lots of people aren't keen, but I just really like it. Roger Moore's debut and this sort of thing, and 7 films, and what an innings he had doing Bond. He's probably one of my favourites, actually, thinking about it. But the things that stand out for me are about Live and Let Die are the pre-title sequence. First of all, there's no James Bond in it. It just shows everything's in trouble and who's going to put a stop to all of this mess? Of course, Bond. But we realise after the epic song, by the way, McCartney and Wings and the Guns N' Roses version, that he starts off himself in a bed with a woman. Like, what a way to start off his role. Like Connery in the casino and Timothy Dalton, on a mission, and Pierce is the same. But no, James Bond in bed, Roger's in the bed with a woman. That's how it carries on. It just holds up so well after 50 years. I mean, the stunt work of this film, the boat chase, the bus chase, it's not CGI, and they were doing that stuff for real, and the crocodile, he's jumping over the crocodiles. I mean, not Roger, but the stunt guy. I mean, that must have been very brave of him. Obviously, we've got the epic cast of Live and Let Die as well. I know it was a time of the blaxploitation era, and I don't know too much about the history, but so you've got a lot of black characters. T-He, he's one of my favourite henchmen with his mechanical arm, and he outlives his boss as well, and the train fight at the end. I like T-He in the way he breaks James Bond's gun in the New York scene where he meets Solitaire for the first time. Kananga, of course, and Mr. Big. I didn't really understand when I was young the correlation between the two, but obviously it's apparent now, but it looks a bit silly when you think about it. But as a kid, it was like, what are they real? Are they two? Yeah. So Solitaire, of course, what a Bond girl she is. I mean, a bit strange, but with the card reading and stuff and those outfits, my word, imagine if they made a film like that and they used the outfits like that, then that would have been something, wouldn't it? But one thing I don't understand is when they get away from the island and they're going back to New Orleans and they get stuck at the airport, she throws her handbag at him. What's that all about? It's like a turn of... I'm not really sure. Maybe because he's failed at saving her and she's no use to Kananga anymore. I'm not really sure. But anyway, that brings us on to Mrs. Bell. You're not my usual instructor. I mean, I like Mrs. Bell. Who doesn't like Mrs. Bell? Yeah. Felix Leiter as well. David Hedison's debut as Felix Leiter. He's definitely one of the best Felixes for me. And I'm so pleased that he comes back in License to Kill. I know it's one of your guys' favourites, so yeah, I like Felix Leiter. He's a good Felix. And I mean, they had a friendly relationship in real life, Roger Moore and Hedison, and it sort of shows here. So that's good for me. The locations as well. It's New York, downtown New York, or Harlem, wherever they are, and then San Benito, the Caribbean island, fictional, but I guess Jamaica or wherever it is. J.W. Pepper, we can't forget about him, and he's epic, isn't he? It's just like that guy who chases after Bond in the car. And I watched the clip the other day. I don't know, maybe he knows about this cop, and he's like, oh, here he is, this rubbish cop, and yeah, but he's memorable, isn't he, J.W. Pepper? You can't get enough of him. I really like the soundtrack for Live and Let Die because it's unique. It's not like any of the John Barry ones. With John Barry, we've got a lot of variation of soundtracks, like their own themes, if you like. So, A View to a Kill, An Octopussy, The Man with the Golden Gun, Moonraker, and so on and so forth. Live and Let Die is its only unique one, where you have George Martin doing this funky James Bond theme song and all the soundtrack. So things that stand out for me are the New York taxi chase or taxi ride when the taxi driver gets shot, and Bond meets Solitaire for the first time. If he finds it, kill him. That stuff. The crocodile. After the crocodile stunt, when he finally kills Adam in the boat, and the music before he has the fight with Kananga as well. I really enjoy Live and Let Die soundtrack, and it does stand out for me.
So yes, the Bond girls, and we have Jane Seymour, who was, a virtual unknown and very, very young at the time. And I mean, my own view is that innocence really comes across for what is meant to be.
19 once you went the film.
Yeah, was it?
Yeah.
19? Yeah, I mean, that's crazy, isn't it now?
Yeah.
How old was Roger? 40...
46, 47. Fine.
Trouble.
Yeah. Trouble. So, go on, Bob. Jane Seymour at the time, this propelled her to stardom, I assume.
Yeah, it certainly did. Yeah, I loved her in it. I honestly do not think they could have cast anybody better than Jane Seymour for Solitaire. She absolutely and utterly fits. I think it's a very good cast all round. It really is. Yeah, she obviously portrays the innocence, and obviously she changes slightly after they've been to bed together.
Yeah.
To when she knows that he's tricked her, obviously for a bit she goes against him, but she's only playing the part with Kananga.
Yeah, it's quite disturbing, the relationship that you imagine Kananga has with her. It's quite nice.
And with her mother, and
yeah.
22 when it came out.
Oh right, okay.
Oh yeah. Just
checked.
She must have been one of the youngest, wasn't she? I would have thought.
24 years between her and Roger, but actually, it's not one of the ones I feel. No, because Roger does look very young.
I was going to say, because Roger looks so good.
Yeah. Do you think that's because they deliberately the story's written around that, so they're not trying to get they're not trying to like portray her as a mature woman? That the point is that she is a young, naive virgin.
Yeah,
and that's so it plays like that.
And he's an old, experienced chap.
and he somehow.
You couldn't
rigs the deck to.
You couldn't.
No.
But there's a sort of joke where she's, I quite like that. Should we do it again? So I can't remember the line now.
Oh yeah, she's loving it by the end.
She wanted lesson number 3.
Yeah,
I couldn't believe it.
Darling, he gets so cocky, doesn't he? I feel a bit sorry for when she, that wasn't very funny, was it?
I know.
Yeah.
But he doesn't explain to he just didn't say anything. I didn't do it.
Yeah, just puts T.E.'s arm out the way.
Yeah.
They probably originally, or you said, or if they did it now, they'd have a black girl, wouldn't they? I think in the part. But at the time, we're going to Rosie now, Rosie Carver. So many people are like, I can't stand her. I can't stand that woman. You know, that character. She's so annoying. But how much of it is it an act that she's pretending to be a bit incompetent when she's actually, you know, working?
She is pretty difficult to figure out.
I don't know what the answer is, but I'm intrigued by it.
I can only think the most true you ever see her being is when she's running for her life.
Yeah,
that's the only time. That's the only time you can be sure that's the real person, whoever she is.
Yeah.
But even that doesn't tell you, because obviously she's scared for her life then, as anyone would be. So it doesn't tell you much.
Oh, James. Oh, you don't know what finding you has meant to me.
Oh, I can imagine. And you've no idea what finding this has meant to me. You do know what the Queen of Cups means in an upside-down position. A deceitful, perverse woman, a liar, a cheat, and I'd like some answers now.
Please, you don't understand, see? They'll kill me if I do.
And I'll kill you if you don't.
But you couldn't. You wouldn't. Not after what we just done.
I certainly wouldn't have killed you before. It used to be a convincing act, Rosie. It's wearing a little thin now.
It's not an act.
Make your choice.
I mean, that is one of the most Fleming, in inverted commas, Roger, cold-hearted. It really is. And I'll kill you if you don't.
Yeah.
No one really
make your choice.
Yeah, no one really references that as Roger when Roger was. But I think that's one of the most like flipping it, mate. I'm with her in that. Like, that's a bit. You don't need to be.
And the gun is right in her face.
Yeah. After they've just made love.
Yeah.
With a picnic.
Sorry, the Rogers aren't very Fleming. Let's get that very clear.
Oh well,
make that really clear.
We don't in the sea, Rob. In the sea.
Get in the sea. Get in the bin. Adopt both those territories as your own.
Reverse greatness.
Reverse greatness. F minus hype.
Yeah. Another thing about her, why does no one say how ridiculous her name is? Rose Carver. I don't. No. It's the drink. Carver.
Never realised that.
Well, that's what I don't. Is it just me, or is that?
I hadn't realised.
No.
I'm not joking. I don't know. No.
No one drank rosé in those days, though, did they?
Yeah, I suppose.
Named after her, perhaps.
Yeah. Rosé didn't exist at the time. Yeah.
She's a really interesting character. I know people get annoyed, but isn't that part of she's sort of supposed to be like that, isn't she?
Yeah.
And you know, this inexperienced agent on the face of it to begin with.
Yeah.
Again, it's hard to know what is her being genuinely incompetent and useless and what is an act. But like Harry says, when she says, you know, it's not, you know, she says, I can't remember what he says to prompt it, like this act is becoming rather tiresome or something like that.
He knows.
So he must be thinking what she's been doing has been affected. So I think it's really good. You know, obviously, first sort of, you know, interracial. Well, you know, with a black woman for Bond on screen, which is you know, which was good. But she was an interesting character. It wasn't to tick a box or anything.
No.
Yeah, and there are lots of comedic moments with her. I mean, you know, in the hotel room when she first arrives,
that first scene,
you know,
is one of
the hat with the feather as well.
Yeah.
Well, it's just a hat, darling, belonging to a small-headed man of limited means who lost a fight with a chicken.
It's a warning. Get it out of here! Oh, please. Please don't leave me alone tonight. James, please promise me.
All right, darling, if you insist.
I did say the line in a Nerf battle at home recently. I could have shot you.
Yeah.
That must be
killed
awful
me.
to live with. That must be dreadful to live with.
There's the hat.
Like the screaming in there. It's a warning. Get it out of here.
Yeah. Oh, I know what I was going to say. Bond gets delivered a card when he's having breakfast, sort of warning him that. But who's that from?
Guy Hamilton.
Supernatural.
Mm.
Yeah. Guy
Great
Hamilton,
question.
just chuck it in and no one will remember or ask any
Supernatural,
questions.
Yeah. We'll cut a few key scenes and then not explain.
Yeah.
And Bond, Roger Moore doesn't make a massive deal of it either.
A liar, the high priestess or something.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, it just gives him a clue. But like you say, who did send it? It wouldn't have been the woman in the shop.
Oh, her,
The
yeah.
voodoo shop. It wouldn't have been her because she reports him. Well, as soon as he's gone out, she's reported him, isn't she?
Yeah.
So,
But this is in San Monique.
Yeah.
It is scary that
Yes.
it's a bit, we have people everywhere, isn't it? Kind of.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Got to mention, sorry, but best villains as well. Whose funeral is it?
Oh, yeah.
Whose funeral is it? Yours.
What a character! Apparently, one of the main guys in the band.
Yeah, one of the trumpet players. Yeah,
but you can't act like that. I mean, that's another level of.
You wouldn't, if he was a band member, you wouldn't pick him out and say, right, which one of those should we pick as the villain? Him. No way would he, but it's such a good choice.
It has to be someone who's like looking up, mate. You know, it's just. I do love the. I know we said a lot of people don't like the pre-title sequences.
Oh, it's amazing.
But the way you get it, and then you get the same repeated.
Yeah.
Later.
I think that's why they've done it, haven't they?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I'll defend this pre-title sequence to the hill. You know, like I know people say James Bond's not in it, and that you can't disagree with that. But let's go beyond James Bond, right? Somebody says, "What's that film that starts with a band, a funeral service, walking down New Orleans, and then someone gets stabbed, and it turns into a party?" That's beyond the world of Bond. That's cinematic greatness. That's iconography right there. It's unbelievable.
And again, as kids, you're like, "Sorry, what's this?"
Yep.
Look at that. That he was in the
coffin that picks up the body.
I don't know how they do that. It doesn't look like trick photography to me. I mean, it's incredible.
I picture some lovely on the handles, some crisp squeezy things that open a trap door. And then when you let go of them, they scoop up the body and do that. Yeah, that could work. Yeah,
that's right. Yeah. And then the repeated Snake Man, with the goat's head.
Yeah,
what a guy!
Dark though. My only criticism, I think I mentioned this recently, of the opening titles is, I don't know if it's only recently, but when the snake does it doesn't look like it makes contact with the agent. It goes near him, and then I've always thought he just faints or from fear. Yeah, I don't know. It doesn't. It took me a while to realise that's another agent being taken out.
Blood on his neck. I might be wrong.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah.
That was Baines, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, I always rather like Baines.
Yeah.
Bit tasteless, Not bothered he's dead.
That's all for part 2 of our Live and Let Die 50th anniversary special. But stay tuned for part 3.